Madam Mayor. Well, the last administration started this review in February 2014, which was the AC's the end of stage one of this, aims to complete this by 2020. I'm pleased to see that here as well, there's a large number of local residents who got involved in the project and made some very helpful and useful comments, as you see in the document here. There's just a small selection of them. But going forward into the sponsor stage 2 and 3, we really require to do even more than this, and actually get more comments from residents to make sure they have to shape this area and have a say in what comes forward in the next 20 years. This process seems hard for us all really to engage with. It's sometimes, but it's vital. But here tonight, I need your help to get this message out to the people across Thurrock. The council is here to shape the areas that we need, and their comments in the reviews going forward in the coming 2 years will be even more important than the needs we've got here. And we're going to do much more than the statutory regulations we need to do. So, and on top of that, outside the consultation processes, the statutory consultation processes, we always welcome, and I always welcome, and I know the officers do, comments outside the process to feed that in as well, ideas. In fact, if you ever look over the summer, I don't know if anyone saw, what I would call is like a pants and tops display and stalls across the community that we involved in. And some of the comments were very insightful across from all ages, from 7 to 77. And these are really needed to do this feed the thing. I'll just give you a few examples that have come in over the summer when the consultation had closed. And I'm going to do it in a very new modern idea. Karen from Grays says this is a pants one, so there's too many cheap shops, not enough high quality, need better nightlife. Yeah, so it's again the old one I think that we just talked about is HGV movements from Angela from Purfleet. It's a very terrible area. Purfleet is paid with it over and over again, and we need to make sure this is engaged in the local plan. Natalie from Stifford, thinks the parks are not being done up and the screen, the maintenance and some pieces, which obviously cleaning, cutting, fill it has been to actually deliver this over there, but the parks still need to think about the screen spaces as well as different big houses and thinking that way. On top, what's good about the area that can be fed in as well, that you see, is Stanford Hope. It's got some lovely river views. We need to actually do more of that, and I think that actually improves that from across the area. In Chafford, Tina says this loves the hidden oasis of Chafford Gorge. We want to keep more of that and increase that across the borough. And this is some of the ideas that we need to be fed in. A good community feeling from Lucy from South Ockenden. Good shops nearby, a variety of different foods, and maybe we need a new supermarket though. Right. Cam from Grays, more sixth forms and a grammar school. Nicola from Grays. Not enough done in the evenings. We can go out in Lakeside, need to go out in Grays. So this is the thing. It really does. These things are really important for us, and for me especially. And outside the consultation, these still feed into this process, and that's why we're doing more. And that's some of the great ways to do it. We get the general public, instead of, if you see in the back of that, 40 questions, which are needed to be done, and we need to do these questions, but we also need these answers, which makes it easier for the public. And I don't know about you, filling a run at 40 is a tedious process, but important. So just filling that in, pants and tops, or things like that, or getting people to put just a few comments in, is still very important in this process that we're going through here. With that, I do hope that you can show your support tonight for this journey, and that we can move forward the officers and thank the officers with a unanimous vote to move forward to the next 2 stages. And I do thank the administration for starting this previously. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Snell, do you wish to speak?
I quite like the new style of mentioning Karen from Grays or whatever it was. Fantastic. I mean, that's all the fluffy stuff, that's all the gimmicky stuff, and at some point we're going to get into the real important stuff, like where we're going to start building. And early on in this process, I did actually request that we produce maps where we can see the brownfield sites, so we can see the green belt, so we get a good visual idea of where we're going to go with all this. And I'd like to ask, is there any progress on that, and when we can expect to see those? Also on the recommendations themselves, I don't like fuzzy recommendations, and 1.3 to me seems a little bit fuzzy, with the delegated authority granted to the portfolio holder. Now, I understand that was on timescales, I get that, that's on page 56, but I would like that to be changed slightly to say the delegated authority to amend timescales is granted to the portfolio holder, just so we're very clear on what 1.3 is actually all about. So I think that will tend to get lost in translation somewhere down the line, and we wouldn't want that. Thank you.
Councillor Kent.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I think we're happy to support the recommendations this evening and see this very much as a kind of stepping stone on the way to a completed plan. I agree with Councillor Cockshaw that the engagement of local residents has been really good. I am, however, concerned at some of the remarks, some of the responses that have come from other authorities and from developers. For instance, the response that says we should undertake a full review of the green belt to identify additional land for housing, to consider the allocation of land to meet the future housing needs of London and neighbouring South Essex local authorities, in addition to meeting Thurrock's own objectively assessed housing needs. What else? To consider the requirement for Thurrock to make additional provision to meet Basildon's unmet gypsy and traveller needs, recognise Thurrock's future role in meeting London and the wider South East waste needs. I do understand that as of yet, no other authorities formally approached Thurrock Council with a request that we should engage through the duty to cooperate process to look at whether we should allocate additional land in Thurrock for others' unmet needs. But I would, however, like an assurance that the portfolio holder will withstand such approaches and will always defend the right of Thurrock people, Thurrock Council, to make full decisions over housing in Thurrock.
Yes, a very exciting document, a bit dry. But if we look to two of our big players in the borough, DP Weld and the Port of Tilbury, I do hope that we fully support them, particularly the Port of Tilbury as an example. The last time we didn't give them quite enough land that they requested for their expansion plans, and I hope that this time we will recognise that and put that right to the port, because obviously if we don't let them expand, they will contract. And when it comes to DP World, the most important thing up the east end of the borough is housing, and we must recognise there are some difficult decisions to be made, and I'm sure it will be releasing Greenbelt in the east to make sure that DP World have the housing that they are crying out for at this time. I was only told a couple of days ago that Marks & Spencer's withdrew because of a lack of housing. There is no housing in the east. And we desperately need to get on with that job to support DP World, because somewhere they have to have homes for their, not only their executives, which we want them to live in this borough, but more importantly their managers and their workers. We don't want them coming from Harlow, coming from Basildon, Chelmsford, Brentwood, Bishop Stortford. You know, we want them to live locally, so they spend their money locally. And I think we have to be very proactive on releasing land to make sure that they have sufficient housing to meet their employment needs. And that is so vital, because we talked earlier about pollution and HGVs. We also get pollution out of cars, so the fewer car journeys we have, the better for us. And I do hope you are able to look at that detail for us.
Thank you. Councillor Glencoe. Apologies.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That's absolutely fine. It's actually now, after Councillor Rice's speech, really to echo both Councillor Kent and Councillor Rice's concerns, and perhaps to allay them. Really shocked to see another local authority suggesting that we should consider in our local plan taking on their inability to supply enough traveller traveller places and pitches. We short on our own provision that we were obliged to take. And there are other areas within Essex that could certainly take more, not us. And the same with housing, and Councillor Rice really hit the nail on the head. Businesses will not come if their workers have nowhere to live locally. Local workers tend to take a lot less time off sick. They've got a lot more back into the community, both in the sense of money, community well-being, and of course just be part of the place because they live there and they work there. But I can assure Councillor Kent that obviously we will give due consideration to these requests from other authorities. I just feel that due consideration may not be as much as they wish us to give. It will be very, very short, I hope, in my opinion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Spillman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm a native of Castle Point, and all I would say is that when we go through this process, this is to officers and to the administration, it's been an absolute disaster in Castle Point, this local plan. It's been an absolute joke and it's been an embarrassment. And I just hope that we can all consult with each other and we can all come to a plan where, you know, people are happy that their input's being put in. We don't get into that same political nonsense like that's happening there, because this is a really, really important thing, and we do have to work together. Because if we get this wrong, it's disastrous for the whole country.
Thank you. Councillor Holden.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The portfolio holder for regeneration is entirely right when he says he wants to go above and beyond the statutory minimum in terms of how we consult not just residents but businesses and also our partners, because additional consultation is how we're going to bring people with us through this process. Councillor Snell said we simply need to get things built, and he's correct. I spoke at a planning and health event last week, and the subject of the event was how we make sure we actually build health infrastructure. We said a great deal about clean it, cut it, fill it in terms of trying to repair the image and the look of the borough. In terms of health specifically, and it's a big part of the local plan, we need to imagine, we need to plan, and we need to build. We've already imagined, new health hubs, etc. We're in the planning stage with partners, the NHS, the CCG, and we need to get to the stage where we are building. That's why the portfolio holder dragging out additional consultation through the local plan is vital. We need to bring all our partners together to make sure that our planning teams, our regeneration teams, are fully cognizant of the responsibilities we have to our health colleagues to ensure that we are building the Thurrock that we need. It's tough, but additional consultation is the way to go. So I fully endorse what the portfolio holder is asking. Certainly as a portfolio holder for health, I'm working hard for him to ensure that we do deliver on what the borough needs going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy.
I'll be voting against this report because 12 months ago the request was made by Councillor Snell that the brownfield site map would be produced, and I think it's not sensible to go forward with a consultation asking for details that will look into big planning projects without that map. I think if we want to be serious about building in Thurrock, we should at least look to prioritise brownfield sites, and I don't feel this report does anything where it needs to go enough. I think if it continues in the vein it's in, there'll be lots of building on greenfield and greenbelt, which I don't agree with, but seems to be a priority of this administration.
Any other member wish to speak on this report? Councillor Barbara Rice.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Thank you to the portfolio holder for presenting this evening. I think it is really essential that we ensure that our residents are consulted fully, and I fully agree with the portfolio holder on this, because let's face it, whatever way we look at it, this is going to be 4 Chafford Hundreds. 20,000 homes is 4 Chafford Hundreds. It's absolutely massive. And looking at 1.5 vehicles per home, 30,000 extra vehicles in Thurrock. We're banging on about air pollution, air quality, open green spaces, etc., etc. So we really have got to ensure that we take our residents with us in this plan. Of course, we know that we have to go ahead and meet our requirements, otherwise it will be done to us. but it has to be done in a way that is going to be sensitive to residents who currently live in Thurrock. I mean, it's no mean feat to have 20,000 new homes, Madam Mayor, and you know, we really have to make sure that the community are coming along with us. Thank you.
Yeah, but sorry, it's a bit disappointing. We just obviously the timescaling thing, and I didn't want to speak at the voting, I don't mind anyway, but it's just important to try and get the timescale. It now has to come back to council, which means then we're not going to actually get the consultation in a timely manner, and it's trying to deliver these on a yearly number. There you go. Councillor Snell, I think this is the options 1, 2, 3, and then public inquiry. I think maybe I said send you the details. The maps come out. This is a conversation to decide mapping. Like you've got to have a conversation first, and then you have the maps in options 2, and you see all this in next year in options 2. We're talking about options 1, and there's the report. So maps don't come out until you see our conversation. We don't want to write maps and do things to people. We want conversation what people think. That delivers maps for options 2. So that's what happens there. It's just a bit weird. Councillor Kelly, you are exactly right. Obviously, we do what we do need to do. But what we've got to do is actually deliver a plan, not aware of the neighbours. There are statutory consultation around the neighbours. I think we'll go on to Castle Point in a minute, but Castle Point not doing the statutory consultations properly. That's what we need to do. We do need conversations with the neighbouring constituents, the neighbouring areas. I can promise you that any housing needs that we're going to have will only be to the advantage of Thurrock residents. That's what the plan is for, right? And that's what's always going to happen. So it's got to be advantageous to our residents. It's got to be advantageous to us. Councillor Rice, thank you for your comments. As Councillor Gerald Rice, that was very helpful and frank and honest conversation. And that's the sort of conversations we need with residents. It's 20,000 houses, which Councillor Barbara Rice mentioned, is a huge number. The number's important, but over and over again, and I think what brought home to me the need for housing, other than just thinking about it all the time, just being no to every development, is what's happening in London. And what's happening in London is overcrowding. We're seeing that here, multiple occupations. We need houses for 2 children, and we've got house prices going up and up and up. What that does mean, if we don't build housing, we have house price inflation. We look at the people who were just talking on there. Some of the children who wrote us comments at age 7 won't have a house unless we think about it here. Yeah, that's the seriousness of it. That's how serious if we get this wrong. This is 2036, and so that's what it is. Councillor Spillman, Castle Point, exactly right. But this is our fundamental against this. It says review. We got one in 2011. It was good work from across the parties here. Unanimous voting on local planning continuously, even if it was going at each other, right the way through this in the thing. And that's why we got a good local planning in 11. And this is what we're looking at, reviewing. Castle Point haven't had one. Saying no, putting your hands in your pockets, isn't an answer. You end up like that Castle Point. Yeah? Alright? So that's what I think. Councillor Duffy. Well, I think Councillor Duffy, sadly, you need to go back to school. Because you've not read everything here. You don't understand what you're talking about. You're talking absolute balderdash. And I would say something else, but a couple of years ago I was so this is a review that goes through 3 consultation stages. Maps come out there. You can do as you wish, but it's just disappointing. That's what we've done today. And we need to finish this really and think about that. We want to get a timeline. It's a tight timeline. The timeline is important because we don't want unauthorised, not unauthorised is the wrong word, plan applications, speculative plan applications come along with poor local plan. And you get someone trying their arm to get delivery, and that upsets residents and think we've done it to them. Yeah, right. And that's the problem we want to solve. So if we get to, as quick as we can, to the options 3 before public inquiry, we've got, look at how this is coming in a good local plan. We can use that, the planners can use that to deliver a local plan. And we can use that to say, reject these speculative plan applications from developers. But without you all unanimously working with this, and working with me to deliver this, we're not going to get that, and we're going to get that terrible plan application. That terrible person just putting that in, and we're going to get again and again terrible development. We're not in a wider area and a wider green spaces and making sure then children have a green space they can walk to and cycle to. And we've got to think about that. We get speculative evidence, we don't. So I agree with it, so I just think about that and vote obviously. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I'd now like to take a vote on the recommendations, and that includes the amended recommendation. So all those in favour, please raise your hands.